Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon joins the show, and we are going to talk about the New York Knicks advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals to play the Indiana Pacers, and we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA Draft Combine and what we may or may not have learned this week at that event. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie.
Step and
But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I've been coming on here for a couple weeks now saying the NBA playoffs always deliver. Friday night didn't deliver us quite the exciting game that we had been used to. I'm sure for Knicks fans, they absolutely loved it, and I'm sure the Garden was going absolutely insane. We do get a Game 7 this weekend, and we do get a very interesting Eastern Conference Finals matchup that I'm really excited to talk about and break down eventually, and then also just watch because I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I am really excited to watch Pacers Knicks. I think it's going to be amazing. But where I want to start, even more than that, is sometimes trades just work out.
I was thinking about this. The other night. You're going to beat me to it, but I know where you're going.
Sometimes trades just work out for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy. Everybody's a winner. Everybody is pleased with the result. The Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick trade looks like maybe the ultimate example of that right now, given that both of these teams are currently in the conference finals in their respective conferences. Obviously, the Knicks have taken a big step forward. And, look, the Celtics ended up getting injured, but they were up 3-1 on the Celtics when healthy, frankly, as well, to the extent that Jaylen Brown is healthy and everything like that. The Knicks have earned this in every way, shape, and form. And sometimes trades are just good. Trades are great. I had more questions about this trade for the Knicks at the time of the deal than I did the Minnesota Timberwolves. I actually kind of liked it a little bit more for the Timberwolves at the time, but I could easily see how this worked out for the Knicks. Sometimes it's just good. Sometimes deals are good, and that's the reality of the situation. And this is one of those times where the Knicks are happy, the Wolves are happy, everyone's very pleased. Everyone just comes away a winner, and we're all in a good spot.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk, we'll get a chance to talk a lot about him over the next couple weeks now because that Wolves-Warriors series, just once Steph got hurt, the interest level I'm not trying to take anything away from Minnesota, but it was just, you kind of knew what was going to happen there. And
Warriors didn't have enough juice.
They didn't have enough. Jimmy had the one game where he kind of went crazy and then the other. But anyway, what I was saying is Julius has been very good in these playoffs. He has played very well, and I think he deserves credit for that. And, shout out to him. And then after a regular season of questions, what is the ceiling? How is it all going to work? The offense, the defense, whatever, the Knicks figured it out. And specifically tonight, I did a breakdown for GMAC over on Knicks Film School where I kind of crushed the Knicks defense in Game 5. Jaylen Brown and Derek White torch them in transition, in ball screens, hunting Jalen Brunson. I thought tonight the Knicks' defensive energy and effort and multiple rotations and sense of urgency in transition, et cetera, navigating ball screens was incredible in the first half. Does Boston miss shots? Sure. But I also think part of that was because of how the Knicks were playing defensively. And Karl Anthony Towns has had games where we've given him credit for defensively. It's a little bit better than we thought it was going to be, along with the versatility he provides on the offensive end.
I almost think the guy I want to start with is in that respect, right? There's so many guys who played well tonight for the Knicks. I think everybody really played, if not their A game, pretty freaking close. Honestly, I would say all of their starters played basically their A game tonight. I think Josh Hart like came out and set just an absolutely amazing tone in terms of the way that he just was all over the place from the moment this thing started. The activity level, the motor, it felt like he came out and decided, oh no, we didn't have it in game 5.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have that same intensity. We didn't have that real, attention to detail. Maybe they thought it was going to be easy without Tatum. Like maybe they disengaged in some way, shape, or form. He tonight, to me, made it so that there was never a moment where they disengaged in this thing. He was so locked in energy-wise from the jump. And I think it is such a huge, huge, huge credit to him. And look, he's rewarded with a triple-double, obviously. 10 points, 11 assists, 11 rebounds, only 2 turnovers, goes 3 of 8 from the field. Like, I thought that Josh Hart was like the guy tonight for them.
Yeah, I mean, in this series, Sam, he averaged 15 points, 8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, less than 2 turnovers on 46, 38, 75. I mean, for all of the Josh Hart shooting things, like 42.5% on 40 attempts in these playoffs. It's not going to be on volume, but I don't want to say consistently, but there are plenty of examples of when the other team is not guarding him making threes in the corner and big moments and big situations. And here's the nice thing for the Knicks is, for a while, it wasn't an argument, in my opinion, to put Deuce McBride and play him more minutes because Deuce wasn't playing well. The nice thing is Josh Hart has played well in these playoffs, in my opinion, doing all the things you're talking about, along with just the stats production. Deuce finally found himself in this series, and specifically in the first half of this game, because Deuce was the guy that I thought came in off the bench and really provided some punch and energy and shot making and a big offensive rebound, a big defensive play that led to transition, like those type of things. They're kind of starting to click on all cylinders at the right time, including getting their bench guys like a Deuce McBride going as well.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they're 7 guys that like are their true rotation, right? I can't pick out a flaw tonight. Like it was based, like Mitchell Robinson came in and like they did like the Hack-a-Mitch thing once, if I remember correctly. And he was just fine. Like he went in, knocked down 1 of 2, did his thing rebounding, was really good defensively. Deuce McBride came in, knocked down some shots, was super energetic. I've mentioned Josh Hart. And then, I mean, the 4 main, stars here who really get paid. I mean, Jalen Brunson tonight was so terrific in just getting the team organized, in addition to being able to create advantages kind of all over the court. It felt like, like Derek White, those guys just had like no chance against him. It felt like Jaylen Brown had no chance against him throughout the course of this series. Like he just can't stop and start right now. Maybe it's the knee, maybe it's something else. Like who knows what's going on with Jaylen Brown, but he had no ability to deal with Jalen Brunson in this series. I thought Cat was great. Like you said, I thought really good defensive game. I thought that his transition play offensively, both in being able to hit trailer threes and being able to get all the way to the rim and just like be a physical presence around the basket, was great. Like I think he went like 1 of 3 in the first like 18 minutes or so on trailer threes, but like he really helped them like space the court and make those guys recognize they have to pick them up. And then the wings tonight, I mean, Anunoby was terrific on both ends. Mikal Bridges has continued to do this amazing job of being both available as a floor spacer and relocator. Yes. His ability to drift in transition, his ability to attack closeouts, all of it has been terrific. And then defensively, I think he did a fairly good job tonight as well. It was just a total team performance in a way that makes you really believe that this team is like a genuine title threat right now.
Yeah, I feel like Mikal's defense has been better in the playoffs after we spent, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like in general, there's been conversations on this podcast about the defense being underwhelming and not up to expectations of what you would want from Mikal Bridges in a scaled down offensive role, right? Like that was the idea when he came to New York, is the defense would pick back up to an elite level because he wouldn't be tasked with being the primary option. really ever, other than maybe a couple minutes here and there and non-Brunson minutes. And the regular season, I don't feel like we saw that. In these playoffs, it's been better. Now, I still think OG is obviously the guy, and this is where the Pacers series becomes really fascinating because of who does OG guard, who does Mikal guard, where do you put Jalen Brunson, like all of those different things. But I do think in general, I have been more impressed with his defense in the playoffs and that impact than I was in the regular season. And OG's just been incredible both ends of the floor. Well, he's been awesome defensively. His offense has been a little bit of a roller coaster up and down. So those nights when he's really banging shots, he's awesome. But I think his defense is pretty consistently there throughout all of this. So it's a very interesting team. I thought tonight, they push pace. I think when they play with pace, it doesn't have to necessarily be transition, but when they just play with pace, I think it looks so much better. A lot of the things, I'll probably do a breakdown on it for Knicks Film School. A lot of the things defensively that I thought they struggled with in Game 5, they immediately came back in Game 6 and were better at. And it's important. Like, seeing them struggle in transition against the Celtics in Game 5 was like, man, even if they get out of these series, they're going to get cooked by the Pacers with the pace they play at. So it was good to see them come back in Game 6 and show a little bit of growth with that.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't need to talk about the Celtics tonight. Like, they just looked, cooked after Game 5 at the end of the day. Felt like an emotional, we want to get one because our guy is out game, and then, just didn't have the juice tonight in any way, shape, or form, which is not surprising. The way that they've played, this team just did not stay healthy enough to be able to win. It's hard to do back-to-back. It's really, really hard to do back-to-back titles. We saw Denver break down last year. We saw the Celtics break down this year. Obviously, Tatum, hurts the Achilles as well. They have an off-season full of decisions, and we will talk about that next week when we do their off-season preview. I don't think I need to, spend a crazy amount of time on them right now.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well, where, like, I don't want to discredit what they did this season, and like you said, the injuries play. That is the one thing I will say that I kind of wrote in my notes was I think Porzingis' lack of ability to play a lot of minutes, consistent minutes is the word I'm looking for, is a little bit underrated or under talked about because of how impactful he can be with what he does in terms of stretching the floor, spacing the floor, and then defensively just changing the decision-making of guys that are coming into the lane and all of that. And again, we'll get into that, but it's not just the Tatum unfortunate injury and whatever Jaylen Brown's dealing with. It's Porzingis being able to play. What did he average in this series? Probably under 15 would be my guess as I pull. Yeah, 15.5 minutes per game.
And how many of those per game were effective minutes?
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah, I mean, there was one time tonight where they ran a ball screen and I believe Brunson got switched onto him. And that would normally be like, no, it was McBride. It was Deuce. That'd be an auto throw to Porzingis at the elbow and let him just shoot over McBride or do whatever. And they didn't even look at him. Like Pritchard tried to ISO Mitchell Robinson. And it just like stood out to me. Like this isn't even, I don't know. I don't want to put a percentage next to it, but it's not a very high percentage of Kristaps Porzingis 100%. So in general, just not a very healthy Celtics team. And quite frankly, their offseason is fascinating. It's a really interesting conversation when the time comes, not tonight.
Yeah, it has genuinely turned into the most interesting offseason in the NBA to me now, because they have so many different things that they have to sort through, from finances to what ownership is willing to spend in, oh, by the way, in the midst of an ownership transition as well, which is complicated. So yeah, no, I am fascinated to talk about that. We will talk about that honestly next week is when we will do the Celtics offseason preview. Andrew has sent off some graphics for that. We're starting to get rolling on offseason preview stuff. That will start next week. We honestly might just start with the Celtics because I think that they are the most interesting one.
No, I think it's really fascinating because I've had more people reach out to me about that in terms of like, who do they trade? Who do they keep? Do they take a 1-year reset? Do they? I know we're kind of getting into it now, so I'll shut up. But it is very, very interesting to work through all of the different dynamics of which direction they could go and what they could do, and choosing between this player and that player.
Okay, so the real question here is like, now we have Pacers Knicks.
Yeah.
And to me, Pacers Knicks is going to be an absolute bloodbath
Yes.
of a series. I think it goes 7. I have no idea which way it goes. I like they are able to press each other's buttons in terms of advantages in such interesting, specific ways that I am so interested to see what that looks like. The thing that we talked about in the Pacers, win over the Cavs was the way that the Pacers just literally relentlessly attack your weaknesses in whatever you do. They are going to hammer it. Like, can the Knicks figure out answers to deal with that? Can the Knicks figure out answers defensively to be able to manage that? I think they'll be able to play at the pace. Like, I think that's going to be okay, but at least early on in the series. But can you continue that pace throughout the course of a series when your guys are playing 45 minutes a night and the Pacers guys are playing like 35 minutes a night because they're a little bit deeper? But then, like, on the other side, I don't know on the Pacers who is going to deal with Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Because the Nembhard minutes against Brunson have not been great traditionally. And like, do you have to use Naismith? Well, okay, if you're using Naismith, then that means you're using Nembhard on one of the bigger wings, and they're going to shoot over the top of Nembhard to some extent, even though he's a great defender and has done a really good job on that end. There are just so many ways that series interests me. I think it is such a genuinely great Eastern Conference Finals in terms of like what the product will be for basketball fans.
Yeah, and I was actually had this conversation over on Setting the Pace, and they are very fascinated to get your pick. So hopefully you give that to them tonight. I know you said 7, but they asked me if you had made your prediction yet. As we were talking through the matchups, I realized the Pacers are a team that can't do the traditional put our 4-man on Karl Anthony Towns and put our 5-man on Josh Hart, because they're going to want to hide, quote unquote, hide Tyrese Halliburton on Josh Hart. So they felt like we would, and they needed the size of Pascal Siakam to match up with OG Anunoby. So they can't put him on Karl Anthony Towns. So this was like very fascinating as we were talking through it, where you normally see teams do that with their 4-man on Cat. So now Cat's going to get a traditional center guarding him in terms of Miles Turner. I guess not traditional, but a center on him. Turner obviously stretches the floor. But like, so what does that look like for Karl Anthony Towns now playing against that, as opposed to what he, especially in the Pistons series? So it will just be interesting. And, like with Tyrese, Josh Hart is awesome on the offensive boards. Is Tyrese going to be able to keep him off the offensive boards every time a shot goes up, or is he going to go get 3 or 4 a game?
And the antithesis of that is, do the Knicks send Josh Hart to the boards enough, knowing that the Pacers are going to sprint the other way every single time?
Yep. That's a great point.
The chess match of this series is actually like genuinely amazing to me. I think it is such a cool like situation, and I completely agree with you. I almost wonder, and this is almost why like I think you probably have to have Nembhard on Brunson at the end of the day. I almost wonder if they put Halliburton on McHale.
I thought about it.
Make McHale shoot over the top of you. And then they'll put, Siakam on Towns and Turner on Hart, and then just try and shut down the interior. Yeah. I think that's probably what you do at the end of the day. But then again, that involves Naismith not being able to guard Brunson, because like Nembhard is going to struggle to deal with OG's physicality. Yeah, I think, as much as anything. I think it is a genuinely, it is such a cool series to me. Well, it is such a cool series.
Here's the other thing is, okay, so if you have Halliburton on Bridges, then you're probably going to it's easier for Bridges to get matched up with Halliburton going the other way, which I think is probably the initial matchup on that end, because you probably do need OG on Siakam because he can take you into the post. if you put Halliburton on Hart as a defensive team with the Pacers, do you get more cross matches where you now get Hart on Halliburton? Do you think that that's favorable to you getting him instead of Bridges? Does he not navigate ball screens as well? Or, do you think you can attack him in a certain way that is easier or better than attacking Bridges? I don't like it just really, really interesting where a matchup here completely switches things over here, creates a different pressure point, as you mentioned, on this side of things. And I am a little bit nervous, Sam, in terms of the Knicks playing at the Pacers pace every single game. I think in general they will do it, but one game can swing a series. One quarter, one half can swing a series, especially when you get into the conference finals. The Knicks have to be on it. And I think that's why tonight was vital. They had to win tonight. They could not let Boston stretch this thing out to a game 7 on Monday night, have one day off, and then go play Wednesday in game 1 against Indiana. They needed to win tonight. They'll now get 4 days off to rest up and at least be full strength ready to go at the start of the series.
Totally agree with you on that. Like, they couldn't let this thing get long. No. They could not let this thing end up being a like grind it out deal, especially after the Pistons series in 6, where it was like, oh, this thing was a real like slugfest. And then you get into a 7-game series with the Celtics. Like, I completely agree. And the fact they were able to do it while all of their starters only played like 30 to 35 minutes, like that was even more important. Me. That was so big.
Especially because the Pacers have only played 10 games in this play, right? That they went 5 and they went 5. Like, they've been chilling, and they play more guys in general anyway. And so it's so, I was looking at the Pacers stats the other day for the playoffs, and I think I saw this right. I think I'm remembering this right. They don't have a player averaging over 19 points per game in the playoffs. Like, as good as Tyrese has been, he's at 17 and a half. Siakam's at 18, but they have 6 guys averaging double figures, and that's with McConnell and Toppin at 8.5 each. It's just, it's fascinating the way the ball moves for them and the player movement. And then you get the Knicks, who, yes, you get Mikal, you get OG games, you get a Deuce game, but really it's so much driven by Jalen and Karl Anthony Towns. It just, I'm super excited for it. I truly, and I go back to like my childhood seemed like every Saturday or Sunday afternoon, whatever it was Knicks Pacers. Like, I feel like I just, it was the nostalgia of this series and this matchup is really, really cool for me and somebody my age. So
really what this comes down to for me is the pace.
Yes.
But like in multiple directions, right? Can the Knicks consistently deal with the pace in transition in terms of making sure that they get the defensive matchups that they want?
So important.
Because what the Pacers are amazing at is going down the court and getting you cross-matched.
Yep.
Like, that is what they want to do every single time. They want to sprint down the court, and they want to lock a bad defender on one side of the court and make sure that he ends up in a disadvantageous situation and be able to cross-match him. Like, Tyrese Halliburton is constantly going to be seeking out in transition Jalen Brunson on like one side of the court and try to lock him on that side of the court and then force him into ball screen actions. They will try and attack the Brunson Towns pick and roll as much as they can. The Knicks' job is to avoid that by making sure that they get back on defense. And that's where like the Hart thing, and frankly, like Mitchell Robinson as well, attacking the offensive glass, like that's where it gets really interesting to me is, do you decide to continue to just absolutely obliterate the offensive glass? Because I would understand that. Like, that is such a huge part of what they have had success with. Especially with Mitch and Hart, right? Like, this is a team that was top half of the league in offensive rebounding, right? They do a really good job. But also, I think the Pacers have gotten even better since last season at being able to get teams cross-matched, being more intentional, and being able to attack mismatches. The other thing that the Pacers are, and I think this is such a great comment here from Ron Burgundy 79, the Pacers are extremely intentional about their floor spacing in a way that other teams aren't, frankly. The Celtics tend to be, but they just kind of ran out of juice and steam at the end of the day.
Detroit did this for one game, and it really stood out, and they had a ton of success because they forced Brunson to guard a Sar in the dunker and a floor spacer on the weak side, and he got caught no man's consistently, but they were only able to consistently do it for one game.
And for the audio listeners, like the Pacers are going to try and force Brunson like into being the low help man, basically, is what I would imagine like a huge piece of it is going to be, especially given the fact that I would guess that they start Brunson probably on Nembhard be my read.
That's what I thought.
Like it could be one of the two. Like it does, it'll just be dependent.
Mikal on Holly, OG on Siakam, Cat on Turner, Hart on Naismith, Brunson on Nembhard syncs up a little bit better. But if you told me the other way, I could live with it also, I think. So
I honestly might. I mean, look, they'll cross match and do some different things like here and there, but like I might want Hart on Nembhard a little bit more often just because of how good Nembhard is at leading their break at times and like being able to be that second, transition playmaker out on the court. It'll be interesting to see how they go about it. But that is the pace is going to be key in terms of making sure they don't get cross-matched. Additionally, the pace is going to be really important just in terms of the wear and tear in this series. The Pacers go deeper than the Knicks. The Knicks are going to play, basically their 7.5 guys, let's call it, right? Can those guys continue to thrive playing 40 to 42, 43 minutes a night, whatever it's going to have to be? And then Mitch comes in and plays his 20 and, Deuce will come in and play his 25, right? Like whatever you can get. Can their starters thrive throughout 7 games playing at the pace of the Pacers after 2 physical playoff, or really 1.5 physical playoff series, basically? When the Pacers have like had time off, had some time to rest, and have had less minutes where like the wear and tear piece of it is interesting to me here.
Yeah. The other thing I wonder about is you're talking about like Mitchell Robinson stuff is how much can the Knicks go to the 2 big lineup that we've seen them go to in both of these series with Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson? Where are those minutes at? How do they look? What Pacers lineup do you feel the most comfortable trying it against? And really that's to dominate the board. So to your point, if you're going to go to the 2 big lineup, you got to be sending those guys to the offensive boards. And I think the hope there is you come down with the board and you score. The one thing I want to emphasize, Indiana will push pace right back at you off a made shot as well. You can't, and I'm glad you emphasized getting matched up in transition, because that was the thing New York did awful in game 5 was they would point, but they weren't really getting matched up. There was no sense of urgency to keep the matchups that they truly, truly wanted in those situations. Here's one other thing from the Pacers side of things. You mentioned Nembhard, while a good defender, may not be a great Brunson defender. So let's say it's Naismith. What about when Naismith doesn't? Let's say Nembhard is like not having success, right? 2 games into it or so. Let's say we're going into game 3. Nembhard's not having success on Brunson. Who guards him then in the non-Naismith minutes? Or if Naismith gets in foul trouble, it's
going to have to be Nembhard, I think.
So what is there another name though? Like over at Setting the Pace, they threw out like maybe Ben Shepherd gets 10 minutes and he gets a shot at it. They threw out like
no.
Do you try Benedict Mathurin on him because if he's better somewhere defensively, it's on the ball. Do you try Pascal on him?
Oh,
this is why it's an interesting question though, Sam, because again, if Andrew,
I think it's 48 minutes of either Nembhard or Naismith, and they stagger them and make sure, 42 minutes, however many Brunson plays.
Yeah.
When Brunson's off the court, you can maybe have one of those 2 guys off the court.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's one of those 2. I did not like the way that Shepherd dealt with physicality, particularly. I think Ben is like a really willing, aggressive, like defender in terms of like he cares. He does try to get into guys' space. Like he is willing to play that way. I think I would like almost trust McConnell to deal with the physicality more than like honestly, like I might try and put TJ on, like if I had to, and one of Nemhard or Naismith wasn't on the court, I might try and like have McConnell full court press Brunson for like 3 or 4 minutes and just try and like wear him down a little bit more than anything.
Just be a pest and try to deny him the ball and get one dig turnover, maybe take a charge on a push off, something like that. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Now, if Nembhard is doing okay, this isn't as big of a deal because I think it's easy to find the minutes between the two of them. I'm already like in, break glass in case of emergency conversation here, but it's like
for Brunson right now. Here's the thing, like, and this is kind of why I lean. The on court makes me lean Knicks here. It's the way that the Pacers push tempo and like I think might be able to wear them down a little bit that is making me wonder about this like in terms of the series. I do think though, man, it's hard. It's really hard. I do think I like the Knicks here a little bit more is where I'm at. It's hard. It's really hard.
So the other day on the Pistons Pulse, we actually had somebody ask us our finals prediction, and I said Thunder and Knicks, and I almost changed it. I'm going to stay Knicks because that was the first thing I said, and I think I started to hesitate after their Game 5 performance, and I think that was just a huge letdown. The other team's star, first-team All-NBA player, was out. They were on the road, and I think it was just a letdown. Tonight makes me feel a little bit better because they showed up tonight and really responded, but I won't be surprised because I think this Pacers team is really, really good, and they've had an impressive playoff run so far. And I also think Rick Carlisle is a really good coach that makes smart adjustments and pushes the right buttons and makes the right decisions strategically. And so I'm going to stay with Knicks because that was my initial thought. But anybody who goes Pacers, even as much as Pacers in 6 or something like that, I would understand the confidence in that.
Like yeah, I don't know. This is really tight. Like, I genuinely am not sure. Part of this is that, like, I actually think that Brunson is not a, like, schemable player right now. Like, I genuinely believe that. Now, like, the Pacers do have guys that, like, can just try to wear on him. You know what I mean? Like, if I was them, I would have Nemhard guarding him full court a decent amount of the time. Like, when I don't have Naismith on him, I'd have Nemhard like trying to pester him full court. I would have, TJ McConnell, if he has to come in for 4 minutes at a time, 3 minutes at a time, and just pester him full court. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the wear and tear piece of what the Pacers can do to you is such a big deal to me. It really is. They are miserable to try to guard. They're miserable to try to like defend and to deal with in a series right now. They are so smart and strategic about the way that they are pinpoint in their matchups. Man, I'm like almost like pushing myself back to the Pacers side a little bit.
Sure.
Like I am seriously 50-50 on this. Like I could not be more 50-50 on this series right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, whenever the time comes to have the conversation on the other side, I feel pretty good about where I'm going to go with that. This one I struggle with because I instantly think Knicks, and then kind of like what you're doing to yourself right now, I start talking myself into like, well, why? Why is it not the Pacers? I think Tyrese is playing at a very high level. I think Pascal's playing at a good level. I thought Miles Turner was awesome in a lot of those Cavs games. Nesmith, Nembhard hits big shots. Like they have these guys off the bench, Carlisle, and it's like the pace and the tempo and they control it. And it's like, well, if I believe all of these things about them, why am I not picking them? And I just continue to default back to, and I think Brunson's probably a big key of that. if Brunson's not the best player in the series, like if Tyrese outplays him, the Pacers are going to win the series. But if Jalen Brunson, like I think going into it, Jalen Brunson is the best player in the series, and I expect him to be that, I guess, is where I land.
I think this is kind of an amazing point to close on from Antoine.
Interesting.
Is the Eastern Conference Finals also a battle for the best point guard in the East? Or do you think there's another point guard that could end up being the best in the East? Look, I mean, I think whoever wins the series does get the supremacy. Brunson's been better in the playoffs than what Halliburton has been. I think Brunson has a case to have been the best player in the playoffs so far, other than Jokic, right?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like I might hear out a case like above and beyond. But this is the series where you prove it, right? And if the Pacers win, you know, I don't think either of these guys can point to we don't have enough firepower. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're both healthy going into the series, at least, right? Like there's none of that, totally. At least as we record right now on Friday, May 16th. I mean, I was just looking at my all NBA votes, and I mean, Brunson was 7th or what? I mean, he was second team all NBA for me.
Yeah. I
mean, I had Cade Cunningham above him, but I also had Donovan Mitchell above him at time in terms of that. But Tyrese ended up 3rd team, I think, for both of us. So, I mean, I think those are the names you're looking at whenever you talk playoffs. I mean, I think Brunson definitely has that, but Tyrese goes in and knocks him off and outplays. And this, like I said, this will be a lot of fun to see from Tyrese, because I had complaints throughout the season of like, go be the dude, like go be the, like you should be taking these threes. You should be breaking down the defense. Like stop just passing in some of these situations. And that second quarter of whichever game it was like, oh my gosh, like this is sick. Yeah. And I will also, I always want to shout this out. He has been better defensively this year than other years, like just in terms of activity, length, recovery, disruption, all of those type of things. He has been much better in regards to that. And this is the ultimate chance. Like, I hope he carries the chip on his shoulder of most overrated player in the NBA. Like, I love when players take that stuff and use it as motivation. Like, continue to go out and shut everybody up. Like, that's what sports are all about. Like, that's what competing is all about. So I hope he goes and balls out and we have a great 7-game series.
Yeah. I think he's going to have to do a lot defensively in this series.
Sure.
Like that is honestly like a big factor for me here. He's going to have to be like actually quite solid defensively in this series. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get to the NBA draft combine, we got to shout out some sponsors here, and then we're going to talk about the combine and what matters and doesn't matter. Shout out to the folks over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, where you can cash in on the basketball playoffs. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your PrizePicks lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less, and you're going to get that chance to win cash today. You can turn those playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Starting with the play-in round, every lineup that you make on PrizePicks enters you in the Takes 2 tickets sweepstakes, which could get you in a +1, a VIP trip to the ship. Every Tuesday, PrizePicks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. Fridays are Flex Friday. I hope that you took advantage of that today. You can opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. You can choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. Download the app today and use the code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Second sponsor today. We want to shout out the folks over at Hall of Fame. We've all been one leg away from hitting a massive parlay, be it an unexpected strikeout in the 9th, a garbage time pick six, or a last second layup when the game is already decided. We've all been there where you lose and you feel terrible about it. But if you're tired of throwing money away at a parlay that you just have a feeling is going to hit, the Hall of Fame app has completely changed the game. It's founded by lifelong sports fans who just happen to be giant data nerds that graduated from Ivy League schools. You can finally have a leg up on Vegas by using historical data, matchup grades, and leg correlation tools, along with player performance insights. With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 five-star reviews, it's safe to say the Hall of Fame app has already helped a lot of people win smarter. At the end of the day, if you're not using this app, you're just leaving money on the table. Whether you like player props, game lines, totals, Hall of Fame is going to give you the tools to break down the trends and find the value that you need to make smarter choices. For a limited time only, our listeners are not only get a 7-day trial, but they get up to 50% off of their first month when they use the code Game Theory at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter the code Game Theory, GAMETHEORY, and you're all set. You're going to get that 7-day free trial and then 50% off the first month. Shout out to the folks over at HOF, aka Hall of Fame. All right, Bryce, let's talk Combine. I think that this is where I kind of want to go with the Combine, just to begin this all.
Okay.
I did not go to Chicago. I think I might go next year, actually. Like, I might decide to do that. I've been kind of trying to figure out my travel. We'll see. But I have talked to, God, 40 people that were there this week. Maybe more than that. Like, that's the reality of the world that I live in, from agents to college coaches to, certainly a lot of people on the NBA team side. The things that you see on the court at the Combine mean very, very little. And I think it might be even less than what it's ever been in terms of like true like stock is kind of where it's at. Because the folks that I talked to on the team side, I don't know that one of them brought up the 5-on-5 to me, like genuinely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm not joking. Like, I do not think that one of them brought up the 5-on-5 to me. They wanted to talk about, hey, what do you think the Spurs are going to do at 2? Do you think they might trade? What do you think the Sixers are going to do? Who do you think they're going to take at 3? Like, what do you think that some of these teams like 5, 6, 7, 8, do you think any of them might try to move up? Like, what players are doing well? Like, what did you think of Ace Bailey's interviews? What did you think of, Cooper Flagg, if you had him in for an interview? Like, or what did other teams think of that? Like, that's all that they want to talk about. I don't think that NBA personnel really care all that much about what happens on the court. And this is maybe the funniest example of it that I can give. Tahad Pettiford had a great first day in the 5-on-5. He played really poorly in the second day. Nobody brought up how he played in either day to me. The thing that they brought up was that they liked that he played the second day, not about how he played the second day even. Just, oh, it was cool that he didn't shut it down. Like, nobody wanted to like talk about, turn the ball over a couple times early on, or like nobody wanted to talk about the fact that, he was like so shifty and buzzy in the first game. It was just like, oh no, the fact that he did play is what's cool. Like that. I say that to say, and I make this as like the lead in to what we're talking about. I just don't know how much this thing moves the needle at the end of the day, unless you go out and you are obscenely good. Like Jalen Williams that day at the Combine was obscenely good that year. And that really shifted the needle. I can think of a couple of situations where I think it has. But like, it just doesn't do much. Like, it doesn't move, it doesn't move a whole lot unless you like absolutely go nuts and you hit the measurements and you're amazing in interviews with teams and you're, shooting the shit out of the ball in like you have to hit like a 6-leg parlay to really move the needle at the combine. It feels like, other than like in interviews and other than in, the medicals, which is really the entire reason that people gather in Chicago is to do the medicals.
Yeah. The more like I like the idea of the 5-on-5s, and then the more I've gotten into this and seen different aspects and talked to people, the more I don't, the more I don't really understand it, or I shouldn't say understand it. I wouldn't see the value. Like, I try to put myself in a scouting perspective. And if I was a scout for a team, I don't know why that setting would show me anything in terms of a player's on-court skill and ability level that I couldn't and shouldn't have got throughout the college basketball or overseas season or whatever, right? Like, what am I going to see in that context of a basketball game that's going to give me any more information than what I already have on a kid? Because the context of that game is even more difficult to break apart, right? These guys don't play together. What is the offensive constructs? Like, if I'm an off-ball floor spacer playing in that game, I'm terrified that I never get to touch the ball. So, like, what am I able to show scouts? Like, maybe I can still show relocation and hope they see my relocation when I don't get the touch or something like that. I think it's some of the intangible things, right? Like, oh, he ran the court hard every single time, even though he wasn't getting the ball. But like, again, there's a 30-game sample. Like, wouldn't I know that about player X without needing to do it in these 2 scrimmage games? I guess I'm just not sure what I'm supposed to take away from these specific scrimmages. I can't go find on film in the rest of their playing career. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there is something there. Maybe I'll get a text or a DM after this episode with the scout saying like, hey, Bryce, you're missing this. And I hope I do, and I learn from it, but I'm struggling to see that.
No, I mean, yeah, like I do too. I'm like trying to pull up like Jalen Williams' numbers at the combine.
Yeah, so he's the one that people...
Jalen Williams was like terrible last year at the combine. Austin Reeves was terrible at the combine. Like it's not in any way, shape, or form indicative. So Jalen Wells in the first day went 1 for 7 for 3 points and a -9. In the second day, Jalen Wells went 4 for 11 for 13 points, 2 turnovers, no assists. Like, was not good in those games. I remember them. And he still ends up being 3rd place in Rookie of the Year.
Okay, so the one that people are going to throw at us, I feel like, is J-Dub.
I mean, yeah, I brought him up. Like, Jalen hit literally every single tick mark at the combine. He was great. Like, he was fucking elite in the scrimmages, like didn't belong there. He measured 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan. He interviewed incredibly well. He shot the ball incredibly well. Medicals came back clean.
Okay, so here's my question then, Sam. To this point then, does
real quick, like last
okay, yeah,
thing.
sorry. Yeah.
And he came into the event, teams already being like higher on him than where the public was.
Okay, so
like that was the biggest thing for me. And I'm sorry, I keep doing this because it annoys me a little bit. But like Cedric Howard was higher for teams than what people thought coming into the draft. Into the combine, I'm sorry. I tried to tell you guys that. Like, how much can I try and like tell you guys this? Like, he was just higher for teams. Like, it's not that his combine is like making his draft stock go higher and higher. NBA teams knew that he was 6'6" with a 7'2" 1 wingspan. He measured a little bit longer than what we thought, but like they knew that.
I saw him in person one time last year, and I knew that the wingspan was going to be ridiculous. It's Rasheer Fleming for me. I've never seen Rasheer Fleming in person. I've watched a lot of his tape. I knew the wingspan was going to be silly. Like you can just tell when you watch him play. So that's what I was trying to get to, though, is people are going to say, well, J-Dub wouldn't have got drafted where he got drafted without his combine. And specifically here, the scrimmage is what I want to stay on. In your opinion, does J-Dub still get drafted where he gets drafted if the scrimmages don't exist at the combine? Like,
yes,
okay.
Because you know what I had been told? He was obliterating everybody at the WME workouts before that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he had showcased everything. Like he looked like a real dude because he was going to go into the team workouts and just obliterate everybody.
And
yes, he would have gone higher.
And I've had a scout tell me that before as well. I said, hey, what does somebody need to shoot at the combine for you to like think they're a legit floor spacer? Like somebody who didn't have high volume 3-point shooting in college, what could they go to? And he goes, I don't care what the combine shooting numbers are. I care how he would shoot at our workout, our team specific workout. Correct. Our team specific shooting drill that we have, that we value, that is different than the combines, that incorporates movement and conditioning and tiring them out. If he shoots a certain number at ours, then I will take notice. I don't care what he shoots. And like I've said this before, it's one of the most arrogant things I will say. Like, guys, I could go to the gym right now and record myself shooting threes, like, and put up numbers that you like would be impressive. And
no,
like
genuinely, like,
yeah,
we have evidence of this. So like you and Mark Titus are like probably fairly applicable as shooters, right? Like fairly close, right? You might be a little bit better. Mark might be, I don't know. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you can go watch like Barstool videos of Mark just like drilling like 20 straight threes.
Yes.
And Mark like doesn't play basketball anymore.
No, that's there's one on my Twitter account from like a couple years ago where like there was this like shooting competition stuff on Pistons Twitter. And like I went to the gym on a shooting machine and hit, 40 whatever out of 50 and probably 15 or 20 in a row at a certain point. And it's like, my point here isn't that like I'm special. It's that I'm not special and I'm able to do that at 38 and not in conditioned and torn ACL and all of that. Like, doesn't mean I can show up at the combine and do anything. I get ran off the court in one possession. And so that's why that's what I'm trying to get to is that's why the shooting drills aren't necessarily valued in that context. I mean, the stage and the moment and all of that plays into it a little bit. I think if anything, you can do poorly for yourself if you're deer in the headlights and don't shoot it well. But I don't think that the makes are necessarily like, oh my gosh, this is unreal.
So do you know why teams value their own shooting workouts more? It's because they're very hard to prep for.
Yes,
you can prep for a star drill at the
Correct.
combine.
Yep.
You can prep for your pro day. And you can run through it 3 or 4 times, right?
Yep.
You can't prep for 30 teams individual shooting workouts.
Yep.
That's just not really realistic at the end of the day. So it's a totally different like muscle memory thing that each team is putting them through that allows you to get just like a little bit more information than what you would be getting previously. And oh, by the way, do you know what accounts for 80%, 85%, 90% of a team's evaluation on if somebody can shoot? What they shot this year, last year, the year before that. Like, that's the reality.
Yeah.
So we have 3 years of sample on VJ.
That's what I say. We have game situation sample of whether a lot of these guys, there are very specific cases where maybe there's outliers of you want to see the mechanics up close and personal in your gym or, whatever, or a guy who I'm sure Colin Murray Boyle's shooting workouts for teams, specific workouts is a little more interesting, right? Because we didn't see the sample in college and there's a idea out there that he can shoot. And if you see it in a workout, in your team specific workout, maybe he hits a number that makes it a little bit more viable. I still like, the stuff I love, like the interviews and stuff like that. Like if they're watching, when they bring him in to ask him questions and watch film with them and all of that, I think that's the part of the combine or the team specific workouts that is fascinating to me with players, because I feel like teams have to value that so much.
They do. They value it way more. Like maybe not so much that like it drastically changes their takes, but that is more likely to stop you from taking somebody than if he doesn't play well at, a scrimmage where nobody knows what anybody else is going to be doing out there, because you just met these guys in some cases and you're figuring out where they're going to be on the court, and you just are, running baseline rudimentary offense and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, and even in those team specific workouts, there's a lot of 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. Like some guys' games don't translate as well to that stuff as, either. And so like, that's all part of the equation also. Like I'm probably the worst 1-on-1 player in the history of the world. I suck. But you put me in 5-on-5 and where, there's court mapping and all of that. And all of a sudden I look like I actually know what I'm doing. And so like I've talked to players and agents and stuff where it's like, it's not a great context for our guy, because in 1-on-1s, like he doesn't have a bag and a handle and all of this stuff to break guys down. Even though you can still show your point of attack defense and those type of things, he's going to look better in the 3-on-3 setting even compared to the 1-on-1.
Yeah, and like the stuff that like NBA teams will notice, right? Like Trey Johnson and this is something I talked about previously on the show. Like the intentionality with which Trey Johnson like goes through his workout, where it's like the dude does not stop running. He runs into every action. He takes like a serious, mentality about it. He's not walking around. He's not, without using specific names, because I don't want to like call a specific player out like about something like this, especially because I don't think it matters for the specific player. Like there were like a couple of bigs that just like walked into the shots, right? And just, went from one spot to another, kind of jogged and like did their thing. That's the kind of stuff where like NBA teams will notice more than anything. But if you go about it like in an intentional way, it shows that you are like a serious individual and like you care about, it's like any job interview, right? Like people care about you going in and just being like a decent, person and showing that you have some maturity, showing that you have everything, right? So, have some self-awareness. Like somebody asked me about, the Ace Bailey interviews. Like, let's see, where was this? This was, let's see, I saw somewhere. What did I think of Ace Bailey's interviews? I mean, I thought that I think it's insane. Like, I have no idea what he's doing, honestly. He is not a perfect player. He's a project, and I get it that he's a teenager. And I don't blame Ace Bailey for this. I blame the people around Ace Bailey for this, for not prepping him in a proper way. But like saying, Sean Farnham asks him a softball question of, hey, like, what are two strengths that you have? And like, what would you say your biggest weakness is? And he goes, well, I got more than two strengths and I got no weakness. Like it's just not the kind of self-awareness that teams want to see at the end of the day. Like they love the confidence. Like the confidence is cool, but like teams have real questions about Ace Bailey. Teams have real questions about like, hey, like, is he going to come in and just shoot every time he touches the ball? Like he has at every other stop where he's been so far? Or is he going to like come in and play like within a team concept? Is he going to come in and, do the things that we need him to do in order to be successful? Like it's that kind of stuff. Like teams, I can guarantee you, and I've talked to a couple that were like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? It's not the biggest deal in the world. Like I don't want to sit here and act like it's a huge thing, but it does not portray what I think maybe Ace and the people around him are hoping it portrays, maybe is the way to put it.
Yeah, it was interesting to me. That was my first thought as well, is like in 2025, how is he not better prepared for how to answer? Like you said, that's a pretty softball question. And I would have loved we talked about confidence all the time, right? If you don't have confidence, this league will eat you alive. And so you should have confidence, but if you don't have self-awareness on your weaknesses, this league will also eat you alive. Because you know what this league will do? This league will find your weaknesses and they will poke at it and poke at it and poke at it until you either fix it or it's tough. And I'm not just talking about Ace here. I'm just talking about in general. But like, again, I've talked to enough people and agencies and players and stuff they're prepping them. They're bringing like, here's the type of questions you're going to get asked. How are you going to answer this one? Again, like film work. And I think that stuff is important. I've talked to players where it's like, okay, well, they asked me this and I get to explain because it may have looked bad for this context, but my team was actually asking me or telling me, like, why don't you go offensive rebound more? Well, that's not our team scheme. I'm not supposed to go offensive rebound in this situation. So that's why I average one less per game than what I was supposed to, because in this situation, I'm not allowed to go. I'm supposed to get back in transition or, whatever it is. And so I feel like in general, I feel like they are getting prepped for that. So either it's interesting to me that he went that path, either went rogue with his answer, or why was he not better prepared for an answer that would come off a little bit better, I guess.
Yeah, and like the other thing he said is someone asked him like at his scrum, just like, something about like it was like more of a question of like, how did you like go about developing your pull-up game kind of thing. Like it wasn't framed negatively at all. And he goes, well, I practice those shots like more than, like other people don't practice that shot. It was almost like a Patrick Ewing, like, have you ever shot that shot situation, like kind of thing. And he just like the way he said it, like, and I want to be clear, like I've not gotten anything about Ace Bailey where it's like, he's not a good kid. Like everybody says he's like a really good kid. And like, it's just like how to work is a thing, maybe is the way to put it. Like how you're going about doing your work. And like, do you think that other players like don't practice those shots? Like, do you think that like, other dudes in the NBA like aren't practicing like getting to like a, hang dribble, step back, mid-range jumper kind of thing? And look, Ace has like amazing tools, and I don't want to like keep harping on Ace. Like, he obviously made a lot of headlines during the combine, but there is like a way to go about it. And I worry that he didn't quite hit it, maybe is the way to put it.
Yeah, and this one is fascinating with me, where the teams that get him in and were able to interview him, like, I wonder what the interviews were like, right? Because I would assume they would, value those interviews in terms of, if they got a chance to ask him about these quotes or whatever. And so, like, that's the other aspect of this for him. So it's really interesting. Some of the way things were answered. So
yeah. We'll talk about Ace more throughout the pre-draft process, I'm sure. Yep. If anybody else has questions about players, throw them in the comments while you're watching live. I'm more than happy to answer them. In terms of like guys that maybe like help themselves, like I think that what the big thing people were looking for this year was the way that like NIL and the transfer portal and everything has kind of changed the market on this. And we've already seen, like Boogie Fland just decide to withdraw, right? The expectation and look, I think there will be a couple of guys that just end up staying in and saying, go, like, I'm going to go for it. Right. The expectation is that like most of the guys that are testing, even on the international side, because a lot of them can go to college as well, probably end up pulling out of this thing. Like Yaxel Lendeborg did an interview with Andy Katz where like he was just straight up. He was like, yeah, like I think I'm like 60-40, like going to Michigan. Right. Yeah. And it's because he has a crazy amount of money on the table at Michigan where he's going to go. Like, from what I understand, it's like more than the 30th overall pick or something. Right. Like it's he is in a very good, positive position to be able to dictate that kind of term at the end of the day. So it's great for him and it's great for all of these players. It will reduce the depth of the draft in a tangible way.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's gonna make the second round. I went on the Busby podcast the other day talking Charlotte Hornets and then the Pacers podcast, and both of them were asking me about second round picks. I'm like, guys, I appreciate it, but I don't know that I have great answers for you right now until we see who actually stays in and who doesn't. Like, even over on the Pistons podcast, they only have the one pick at 37, and I just keep trying to like push people away until we have a little bit better of an idea. And I mean, it's going to make for an awesome college basketball season because the talent of college basketball will be even better with the Yaxel Lindenborg and a Boogie Fland in college basketball. By the way, that Florida backcourt could be like, what if all of those guys end up there with Hinchel, Lee, and Boogie? Like, that's ridiculous
crazy
stuff. Along with what the front court could be like, depending on what Condon does as well. But yeah, so like, did Drake Powell? Is your vibe he's staying in? I feel like I saw a quote where he would. So here's where I think sometimes
he said he's staying in, and my impression from like talking to folks was that's been the case like for a month now. So
because I feel like some of those quotes were like, I'm 100% committed, and like it's like, okay, are you committed to finishing the process, or are you saying you're committed?
Right.
Because like Phylon was another one that kind of surprised me, where I feel like it came out that it seemed like staying in was more of the plan there.
Again, my impression, I'm not saying, that I'm right here, but put it this way, like I have not written the Yaxel Lindenborg draft guide profile. I have written the Phylon profile based off of like what the impressions were that I was getting about. I'm not saying he's like decided. I don't know for sure, but the impression I was getting is that he was likely to stay in. Like, it was hilarious. Like Carter Bryant said that he was 100% in the draft. Carter Bryant's been in the draft for a month now. Like he was not going back to Arizona. He just didn't say anything. Like,
okay. So here's my question. Maybe you can answer this. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can. Who's the potential surprise? Like, is there a name that's like, is there a name that you've heard, whatever, that's like the name that I always wonder about is Sorber because of the injury and like, he's in.
I'd be blown away. I'm not sitting here like maybe he wants to announce something, but like that would be stunning to me in every way. Yeah. The one that I'll bring up, and I don't think anything is done here, is like, so Yannick Conan Niederhauser at Penn State genuinely did have like a really good week because teams, I think, didn't know quite as much about him as they did other players, despite the fact that he played in the Big Ten. He tested as quite literally the best athlete at the center position, like in history for his size, like the best intersection of size and athleticism in history.
9'3" standing reach.
So I can pull it all up. 9'3" standing reach, 37-inch max vert, 284 shuttle run, which is 92nd percentile for centers. Standing vert, 33.5, which is 96th percentile for centers. 3/4 sprint, 3.2, which is 91st percentile. And then lane agility was 79th percentile. Those numbers come via Nick Kalinowski, who does amazing stuff, kind of collating all of this combine data and some transfer stuff as well. I think Nick does. I would suggest following Cali drafts over on Twitter. Nick's really, really good.
Yep.
He tested as quite literally the best center prospect in terms of like size, athleticism, intersection in history, according to his model. He also played well in the G League Elite Camp and played well the first day of the Combine. So like he, again, is somebody that strung together like 4 legs of the parlay, right? G League Combine to best athlete at the center position ever to, played well at the Combine then, and then, measured incredibly well. Like he hit everything across the board. I think that, but he has another year at Penn State if he wants it. I wonder if they go, oh, his stock is never going to be higher than what it is right now. We should maybe give this a shot right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like those ones, every year it seems like there's one of those guys, and he seems like one that's the name, like you said, with like Cedric Coward, like we took him in the lottery on our post lottery mock draft. Niederhauser isn't a guy we've talked about, pretty much at all this year. So this is one that seems like maybe is rising up. Were there any other names that buzzed a little bit? Like I was trying to think of just names I saw, like people talking about, we've mentioned Coward a couple times, Pettiford because of the one game. I know people were making a fuss about Maxime Reynaud not playing the second day. Was there a player that surprised you that maybe people were asking you about or talking about coming out of this?
I mean, a lot of people are asking like if Tahad's going to stay in. Tahad Pettiford, guard from Auburn, like 6-foot guard, incredibly athletic, incredible shot maker, still learning the nuances of the point guard position, I would argue a little bit, but real playmaker. I don't know what he's going to do. Like, I think that it's up in the air. I did see some people question, like, should he have played in the second day of the combine? He played so well in the first day. The thing that kind of says to me is that they probably, like, the paradigm of this is kind of shifted a little bit, where if you're Maxime Reynaud, you're 100% in the draft, you're automatically eligible. It makes sense to sit on that, right? Because you're probably not going to do better at the end of the day. On the second day, like, it's just really hard to do so. Let's end on a high. With Pettiford, like, you're really just trying to lock in like a guarantee of some sort.
Yeah.
So if you don't get it like the night of the first scrimmage, right? You probably do have to play the second one in order to just go, oh no, we have to do this. Like, we have to make this no doubter. We have to just make this without question at this point, that he is worth somebody giving a promise to. And he didn't do that yet. We'll see if it happens in the next 10 days. He's an interesting player. He's very skilled, very gifted shot maker, very, awesome personality. Like, that is one thing I do want to get across with Todd Pettiford. Like, anybody who has ever, had an interview with him, anybody who has gotten to meet him, his energy is just like infectious. His vibe is amazing. Like, teams that have him in the next week are going to absolutely love him. It's just, he's 6 foot and it's hard to get a promise at 6 foot. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. I've watched him going back to high school. My college teammate actually was an assistant coach at Hudson Catholic, was one of his assistants there. So I was watching him back then, and like the shot making and the shiftiness and all of that, it's been really fun. And obviously at Auburn this past year. So he's a really fascinating one. I know some people like have him as like a first round lock, and, I don't say a lot higher, but higher than like what I have been on him, but I have him right there, a little bit below that. So
would you take him or Jace Richardson?
I still have Jace right now. I suppose I could understand the Tahad one there, though.
I don't look. I have Jace like in the 20s somewhere. Yeah. I've been thinking about that more. Let's go with. I haven't come down on one side of it yet. I think that is very, very close.
Yeah.
To being a thing.
So Tahad is one of the guys, like I obviously scouted and watched and all of that throughout the year. If he ends up staying in, he will be one of the guys I'll go pull a couple more games and try to really iron out my like scouting report on. And that could push him higher, like a little bit more into that range.
Yep. I mean, so Rachel in the comments asked, who is ranked too high on media mocks? I mean, look, like, I don't look at these a ton. I mean, I'm just like kind of pulling one up as I go. I think Jace is probably high. Like,
Yeah.
if you have Jace like in the top like 15, 16, I'd say that's probably pretty high right now.
Did you go to so I went to so this one has this is one that pulls consensus, including yours.
Okay. Yeah.
This is from
what is the consensus?
this is from Rookie Scale. So this pulls yours, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Swish Theory.
Shout out John Chipkevich, because
Yeah.
John is an all-time human, and
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Does great work. So Cooper, Dylan, Ace, VJ, Trey, Fears at 6. Too high?
I mean, look, I'm personally lower on Fears, but I don't think that that's out of consensus. Look, so here's the thing that's happening, right? I wrote about this today at The Athletic. If you look at the range of where teams are from number 9 to number 18, let's call it, Toronto at number 9 probably should not be taking a point guard.
Yeah.
Right? They have Manuel Quickly. I guess they could. Like, we shouldn't, dispute that, but probably shouldn't. They have Emmanuel Quickly. They have a bunch of on-ball players like Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, etc. Number 10 is the Rockets. They just drafted Reed Shepherd last year. They have Fred VanVleet. They're quite happy with what they have at the lead guard spot right now. Number 11 is, I'm pulling up a list right now so I don't have to like pause every time. Portland, from what I understand, is like super happy with Scoot Henderson right now, and like is happy with his development. Chicago, they're going to give Josh Giddey like a massive contract, in the offseason, it seems like, right? And they have Kobe White. Number 13, Atlanta, they have Trae Young. Number 14, San Antonio, they have all of Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and De'Aaron Fox. Number 15, Oklahoma City, they just drafted Topic and AJ Mitchell last year. They have Shea, they have all these dudes. Like, I don't think they're going to be in the market for a guard. 16, Orlando, absolutely could be in the market for a guard. 17, Minnesota, just drafted Rob Dillingham last year. 18, Washington, just drafted Bob Carrington last year. So if you're one of these guards, you better hope someone either trades into that range, or you better go in the top 8.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality. And all of these players like that are in this range. So people have Jace Richardson there. They have Nolan Traore there. They have Walter Clayton there. Some people, they have Yegor Demin there.
Jaeger.
Like, all these players that are like primarily on-ball players. You better have a spot, because those guys are going to get pushed down the board. And if those guys get pushed down the board, I mean, what happens to the Phylons? What happens to potentially Todd Pettiford? What happens to Cam Jones? What happens to, you can just go down the list again and again and again. And I would have some worries at the end of the day. If I was a guard with the way that the draft order shook out, I would have some worries right now about it. And I would hope that somebody is trying to like trade into that range.
Okay, so the Essengay at 12, Jaeger 13, Jace Richardson 14. Like that, those would be those guys would be a little bit higher than, like, that's, I have Essengay a little bit lower than that. Yeah, I mean, I have all three of those guys a little bit lower than that.
Look, I have Essengay lower than that as well. I'm still trying to get the vibe for where teams are on it, honestly. Yeah. I want to know a little. When I talk to teams, like, I'll get some that really like them, and I will get some that don't really get it, honestly. So I want to learn more about that before I really, say that's too high. Demin, but it's weird because, like, you will talk to teams and you will say, what do you think? And there are just teams that really like Jaeger. Like, I think Jaeger probably goes somewhere in the top 20. So, like, I wouldn't have him there personally, but I get the impression that there are teams that really like him.
Who's going to be the Kyle Filipowski? Like, who's going to be our Kyle? Like, Filipowski was a mid first round pick for both of us last year that fell into the second round. Like, Asa Newell Is he one that could end up falling?
Could be. Could be like. I mean, I hope it's not Liam McNeely.
I say that was the next name I was going to bring up, and I hope it's not either. But that was one. Seraph.
Clifford's a little bit older, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe Seraph. Yeah, but I have Seraph in that range now. Like I have him more ending first.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe those guys. That sounds closer to me, probably. Like Noah Penda, maybe. Like ends up as more of a second rounder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. This is a tricky year. It's a very, very tricky year in some respect. Yeah, like the guy who's too low here, I mean, just looking at John's rankings, is Coward. Like Coward is genuinely just too low at 37.
And I assume once he updates everybody, because everybody's about to move Coward up.
Coward where we've had him.
Yeah. And so, and to be clear, that his is what I've been reading off here is his consensus. Again, pulling from yours, Switch Theory, Babcock, ESPN, all of that. Yeah, it says, this was updated 4 days ago. I bet when he updates on Monday again, I bet Coward is at least in the 20 range.
Yeah.
So.
And, Rachel brings up the question, like this seems you're saying teams should draft based on fit. I think it's more that it's really hard to draft small guards when you already have small guards more than anything. It's not really based on fit. It's based on small guards are difficult to work into your lineup if you already have multiple of them on the team.
And I will also say, I think there's always an aspect of fit into drafting a player. I'm not saying any team has the same kind of ideal and philosophy as me in terms of, but that's where my tiers come into play. I like if within a tier, I have those tiers because yes, within that tier, I'm going to draft a player that's a better fit. So if I have, whoever, come and Walla watch, and then 5 spots later, I have Cedric Coward. If I have 2 centers already on my team that are under contract and I like, then I'm going to take Cedric Coward and feel okay about it. Now, if Common Walla Watch is the last player in my tier, and then there's a huge break there, and I feel like it's a real jump and break in talent or whatever, well, then maybe I take him. Or this is where, I know it doesn't happen as much in the NBA. This is more of an NFL draft thing. This is where you try to find a way to trade down, right? Like, okay, maybe somebody wants to come up for that guy and we can go back and all of that. And again, I realize that happens much, much more in an NFL draft setting than an NBA draft setting.
Yeah. Well, but so here's the interesting thing for some of these teams though. And I almost wrote about this today, but I just kind of didn't. I wonder if teams start looking at teams that have multiple picks like Atlanta, right? Or Brooklyn particularly is the one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Do they start looking at these things in pairs, right? Okay. So we can take Jeremiah Fears at number 8.
Yeah.
And then at number 19, we have who would be left? Will Riley, Noah Penda, maybe Danny Wolf gets there, Nick Clifford, Liam McNeil, like something like that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yegor, Yegor, whatever. Or we could take, I'm trying to think of like an example, like maybe, I don't know if Con, in fact, I think Con probably doesn't get there. Maybe we go with like Kasparis here, right? A guy that can play on the ball, but also can play off of the ball. Kasparis, and Jace makes more sense than like Fears and Jace, right? Or maybe it's Carter Bryant at number 8. You can get Carter Bryant and then you can get Jace at 19, or you can get Nolan Traore at 19 or something, right?
Okay, so let's play the game, because I actually, the Chiefs podcast I listened to did this with their first, second round picks, and
they did essentially what this is.
It was like this offensive tackle with this defensive end, first and second, or defensive end with this offensive tackle, first and second. So would you rather have, and this is kind of more off my board, so like Jeremiah Fears and Asa Newell, or Carter Bryant and Jaeger Dimon?
Oh man, that's actually a close one for me. Probably Carter and Demon for me, because I really like Carter Bryant. But,
yes. But that's essentially what we're talking about here, right? Like, can you,
yeah.
and like Bryant and Newell aren't like 1-to-1s there, but that type of thing, like that's kind of fun to do. Maybe I have to put some of those. I'll have to put some of those together. I don't want to try to do it on the spot because then they'll end up being bad. But maybe I'll do that for you. We'll do
later
that
this week or something.
Yeah, for just
maybe Sunday even.
Some of the teams that have multiple picks. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Runner Dude asks, any truth to the rumors that Jaeger Demon is shooting it well in workouts? So, yeah, teams thought he shot it really well in the pro day that he did with BDA International. The thing that I noticed in the video that I saw is that he seems to be specifically working on his shooting base, which is kind of the critical thing for him above all. I thought this year he often had a bit of a staggered base where his left foot was way too far behind his right foot. And it kind of like ended up being a bit of like a catapulty, like shot putty kind of thing. The shots that I saw personally looked more like a solid base where he was going straight up and down and was getting like real energy transfer through the shot. And it looked cleaner and better to me. Having said that, he's also like still thumbing the shit out of the ball, like unquestionably when you watch those clips. So, what do you take away from it? Maybe a little bit better. Like, I think that there's some real potential there. But again, Jaeger is a kid that has never really shot it in games. And I'll just tell you, like, teams in the preseason would go to BYU and said, oh my God, like he shot the hell out of the ball when we were there. And then he shot it really well early in the season. And then when like he played in Big 12 and, started to feel like real ball pressure, all of that kind of fell apart a little bit. So, it's going to be like how big of a risk, what's your risk factor here? Like how much are you willing to work with it and hope it works out?
That's the part and aspect of shooting that's just so underrated, and it's because it's hard to like figure out with players, but the confidence aspect of it, and we talk about this all the time with confidence, but confidence in their shot, confidence in their mechanics, especially if they're having to adjust their mechanics a little bit, the comfortability with those mechanics, and all of that stuff can change so much whenever you get into a game, pressure, defenders, it getting sped up, all of those different aspects. And so while like the mechanics can look better and the numbers just can all be improved, it's still hard to just know for sure how it's going to look in game situations through the ups and downs of an NBA season and an NBA career. And so like there's just a huge mental aspect to shooting the basketball.
Yeah. Someone asked again, like follow up, if you think that he's an above average shooter on Jaeger, what range of the draft would you have him on your personal board? Probably lottery. I'd have him in the lottery if he was a real shooter.
That was my that was my instinct as well, is he would jump up into the top of that tier where like the end of the lottery for sure.
Yeah. My thing on like on ball guys is I either like buy into it or I don't really. And Jaeger, like I don't really love it right now because I don't know how he scores in the NBA. Yeah. Right. Like that's my biggest question. Like doesn't really get crazy paint touches. Doesn't really have an in-between game, and this year did not shoot it. And frankly, in the past, he has not shot it. So Jaeger being bigger gives him more outs. Like if he can shoot it and can maybe move to the wing and be like a playmaking wing, that's another thing. But like, for instance, like it's why I'm just going to be way lower on Jeremiah Fears than everybody else. Like I don't think he hits the level for me of being like a true lead guard at that size. Like I worry about like Darius Garland and like his impact on the game in the NBA at this point. And Darius Garland like was a borderline all NBA player this year and deservedly so. But like when you get into the playoffs, like how do you make it work? with Darius Garland, right? Like, can you make it work consistently with Garland as your lead ball handler, given his defensive deficiencies? I worry about the same thing with Fears. Like, except like I think Fears is a worse prospect than Garland. So like people are going to be pretty staggered by where I have Fears on my board. I mean, I don't have him in the second round or anything, but like I am probably lower on him than most. But like, look, at the end of the day, this whole thing is just like, you have a process, you have a, a code, quote unquote, in the way that you think about it. And yeah, that's the reality.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. Fears is interesting. Yeah, because like you say, it seems like there's kind of one path there, and it has to be really good at that path. And it's feast or famine with him and with Jaeger. Yeah, I have him labeled as like a ball screen initiator, like very specific with my archetype for him, because I just really question how he affects the game offensively when he's not using a ball screen. How does he break down the defense and those type of things? And then I also like people talk about him moving to the wing, and I'm like, okay, well, now he's a questionable shooter on the wing. So what is that value in the NBA where I'm not sure, like, I see crazy upside defensively, like I've heard the, like the Jake LaRavia thing, like Jake LaRavia is a really good defender. So is Jaeger going to be that level of defender? And, and then, where is that value then, even if he is able to become that archetype of player? So it is really interesting. He's one that I've struggled with. I'm probably lower on him than most.
Yeah. So someone in the comments said, rumor is Raptors promised Common Malawatch. Look, I'd be staggered by that. Like that would blow my mind if they've done that already, to the point where I can't imagine that they have. The thing I want to really get across to people is how rare it is that promises happen. Exceedingly rare. Teams will give an assurance sometimes and say hey, look, we might be your floor at the end of the day. But in terms of promising somebody in the middle of May or in early May, it is just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does. It happened last year. I do really want to get across to people though that the level to which promises occur is just negligible. It happens so preciously few and very rare. It's very, very rare.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that is because you got to uphold that promise or you really take a hit, and the draft is so volatile and unpredictable in some way, especially as you get deeper into it. Right. And so it's you really want to promise this, that player better be on your board. It just better be there's no way, it's Cooper, it's Dylan, and then Common is our third best, is our third ranked player prospect, because you can't go back on it if you make that promise. And especially the deeper you get into the draft, the harder it is, because you just have no idea how it's going to play out.
Because here's the thing, if you're promising a kid, the whole idea is that reciprocably or yeah, that was the right word actually. The agent is shutting that player down and not having him go to workouts.
Yes.
So if you go back on it on June 10th or June 15th, you're screwing that agent and that player.
Yep.
And it's just there's no way this is tenable at that point. Your relationship with that agent is done. Your relationship with that player is done. That's just not, it's not the way it works, is what I would say. It does happen. I'm not sitting here saying it doesn't happen. It just happens way less often than what people think. Toronto, there'd just be no reason to really promise, frankly, anybody right now at number 9. If they do happen, they tend to happen at the end of the first round, or maybe sometimes in the middle of the first round, where you're trying to avoid a player sliding up the board and going to other teams and impressing, right? like if you're Toronto and you're Common Malawatch, right? Like that's probably near the top of Common's range as it is. Like
Yeah.
he's not going to the top 5 picks or whatever. So like,
Or
why
you're
would
trying
you,
to you're
there's
trying
no
to keep a
reason to.
kid in the draft, right? Like you want to keep him in the draft.
Exactly right.
And so then you feel like you need to, like, where to your point where we're your floor, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're here, we're gonna take you. But with
Like my read on like Yaxel Lendeborg is like
Sure.
he wants something like that
correct
to stay in the draft. Like
Yeah.
if he stays in the draft, it will be because somebody has done something like that. Would be my read.
Yeah. With Common, he's staying in the draft. Toronto promising him. I don't know. I mean, I guess like to your point, maybe he doesn't go work out for, the Brooklyn, Washington, whatever. But it doesn't seem like. And to me, if you're Toronto, like you're taking a chance, then now like he would have to be extremely high on your team's board for you to want to do that. Because what if VJ falls, somebody like that we have ranked higher than him. And again, if they don't, if he's their number 3 prospect behind Cooper and Dillon, then sure, go crazy. But it better be that, because if he's number 6 on your board and the number 5 player all of a sudden falls to you for whatever reason, you've now put yourself in a really tough situation.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I think we can call it there.
Cool.
We even went a little bit longer than what I wanted to, honestly. I apologize for that, Bryce.
No, we're good.
It's on me.
It's listen, 11:30 is nice compared to this. This is the only good thing about the playoffs getting this deep is there are no more double headers, and that means the games are starting 7:30 ish, which is beautiful.
It's so good, isn't it? So I saw the schedule for like the Western Conference Finals got released
every other day the whole way, right?
And it's like 8:30, 8 o'clock. Like it's nothing crazy every night. So it's 7:30 your time, like you said.
Yeah,
it's a dream. We're not gonna.
Yeah, the
East late.
The Eastern Conference games are at 7. The Western at 7:30. This Sunday we get a 2:30 afternoon game. It's I'm also out of school anyway, so that doesn't even matter as much anymore. So
that is true.
But yeah, it's nice.
Okay. So we will be starting off season previews. Again, those will be like broken out into like separate pods, basically. They will go up on the podcast feed. It'll be like basically 30 extra episodes for you guys. They'll be like somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. Like we're not, we might go like a little bit longer on like the Celtics, but if there's like a 20-minute episode in there on,
honestly,
I don't
even Detroit
gonna go nuts.
Detroit doesn't have like it's like, should they extend Jaden Ivey? Should they extend Jalen Duren? Should they go for a big move or stay with the re-signings? Like, knock it out a little
their
faster.
cap situation, I've done their sheet already, is very complicated because they can go over the cap or they can go under the cap. Like it's they're in a funky spot. But regardless, I'm excited to go through that process with Bryce. We will definitely be continuing down that road at some point. We will be back on Sunday for sure. We will probably do more NBA draft stuff, I would guess, because that is a whole thing that people are interested in right now. And that's about all I've got. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Got the Substack. It's a little slow right now, but it'll pick back up. And Knicks Film School, doing some video breakdown stuff over there. If you want to check that out, I will probably look at what they did defensively in the first half of Game 6, and then probably not much of the second half. And the Pistons Bulls podcast, Game Theory podcast, right here with the Sam Vecenie.
Yep. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. I did like a bit of a roundup on some things that, just been talking to folks that work for teams and agents and everyone around Chicago about throughout the course of the week here. It's about all that I've really got, I think. Next week is a big draft guide heavy week for me. So we will be trying to lock that in place in some respect, at least over the course of the next 10 days or so is the hope that will be like really finalized in terms of everything. Cause I just need to know the college kids that are in. That's it. As long as I know the college kids that are in, I'll feel pretty good about the situation. That means I am going to have to, I just realized like, might have to write an Avdilis profile at the end of the day just to be safe on this. But I would guess he's probably going to college, it seems like, right?
I don't know. He's good. I like him.
He's good. He's definitely good. I think he's a good player. But we shall see. Maybe he just goes and balls out in some workout. I'm thinking through this on the fly while we're live. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed. We'll be back on Sunday. Until next time, we'll talk soon.